So for our final panel, and hopefully everybody's fully caffeinated by now and ready for our last section of the panels. We're really doing a highlight piece on 361 Connecting, which is, raising capital is great. As everybody knows, it's near and dear to 361. But there are other ways to help businesses, and 361 is engaged in those ways. As examples, we like to partner with companies to bring, focus to their business models. We often try to help them with distribution or business development. So 361 is engaged in the process of helping, quite a few businesses in ways that transcend capital formation. And so we have two great examples of test cases today. Anna, who is here to talk a little bit about PadVerb, and Walter is here to talk a little bit about Despy. So I'll first set the stage by asking the two of you to talk a little bit about your models. And you have kind of a shared feature, which is that both of you have deployed technology to kind of envision the future of the way that we either manage resource, in your case, Walter, or create new ways to publish media, in your case. Yeah. So, Anna, can you tell us a little bit about PadVerb, how you decided that it was something that needed to be born, and where you are with it today?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm an investor. My background is an investor, trader at hedge funds. So I still invest my own capital. And so how did I get to commit to invest my own capital into PadVerb? Well, it was very interesting. I was fascinated by the scalability of the podcast interview medium, which is the new way to publish media. So the scalability, currently PadVerb has about 10,000 creators, hosts and guests, people who create knowledge through the medium of interviews. So this is what attracted me to the company. And the second thing was I'm fascinated by knowledge. I'm fascinated by learning about new things, all kinds of sectors, not just as an investor you see a lot, but there's other things going on that are not investable right now in science, in all kinds of space, so whatnot, anthropology. And this is what PadVerb does. We bring everybody who has ideas to share onto one platform, and we connect them through the medium of podcast interviews. And those creators are in all kinds of, all kinds of industries, all kinds of sectors. Here at 361, we are investors. We probably a lot of us have financial backgrounds. There are other sectors. There are other people who are more into science and knowledge. So that fascinated me. And the third one, why I decided to start PadVerb, is because I'm a female founder. I'm good at resources, allocating resources. So that was we are solving a huge problem. But right now we are doing it with a very budget-friendly, in a very budget-friendly way through employing high-level Silicon Valley quality programmers in East European countries, essentially. So we're getting that arbitrage on the operating expenses, on the payroll, and that is a great place to be, especially right now when you have to stretch every dollar. So why I'm here now? I'm here to tell you about PadVerb, to bring more people into our platform, and to tell you that we're building a social graph of creators that I'm going to talk about it later. This is just answering your question, so I'll give the mic to you.
Please continue.
Could I just make one comment? And we are going to actually do podcast interviews out by the water here right after this panel with our help. And I think you both have another common thing. You're using, cross-border, let's say, relationships, and so are you. But if you can also introduce yourself properly as you answer that business model question. Interrupting as usual. Sorry, it's okay.
Keep the microphone away from them now. Walter, just to kind of be clear, DESP, is compelling because the workplace has changed.
Absolutely.
Incredibly in the last 2 years. And as Erica, I believe, said it was, nothing forces innovation like desperation or feeling uncomfortable. And I think that has spawned a lot of really interesting technologies. And yours is a great example of that because, a lot of the large hirers and every hirer really needs to figure out how to deal with a hybrid workforce now. And so maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how DESP came into your radar and how you decided to bring it here.
Thank you. So hi, Walter Benedoff. I've been in real estate for a very long time. My brother and I started a company back in 1996 called Space Plan. And Space Plan was very focused on office interiors. It was architecture and office interiors. And you talk about desperation. Space Plan went through a situation where we had a partner. It was a U.S. multinational furniture manufacturer. We were at the time distribution for this multinational who was going to actually invest in a factory in Brazil. I have a history of Latin America, more specifically Brazil. And then doing business in Brazil, they like to say Brazil's not for amateurs. And in the early 1990s, economic crisis, inflation got crazy. And basically, the company that was going to invest didn't invest, and we had to have a major pivot. And we pivoted into this office space environment. So been in that environment for a very long time. Ultimately, I had to leave the business because it couldn't sustain both my brother and I. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And so I came and worked in corporate America. I worked in a multinational. It was Weyerhaeuser, which was a forestry company. And then about 10 years later, I left Weyerhaeuser and got into the startup community. And that's when I started looking for startups that were natural resources and energy. And I thought, okay, we'll look for U.S. startups and take them to Brazil. Because if they're creative and innovative in the U.S., they can do some really good stuff in Brazil. We have great contacts, and we can make them successful. So did that for a while, and then I ran into a startup which was in the AI space, which just fascinated the heck out of me. And we invested in that company, and then I got very involved in that company, almost too involved in the company. So I became COO of the company. I did that for 3 years. And took the company from 0 to 25 million very quickly, brought in real professionals who knew what they were doing, and actually started growing the company that way. I got out of that company last year and got back into the startup community. And so we invest in startups again, but this time not just from the US to Brazil, but really going from Brazil, startups that have really good traction are doing very well, but they don't have access to the US market or the US or the startup ecosystem or capital. So we bring them to the US, we get them traction, and then we look for capital. And so that's how we came across DESP. So DESP is in the office environment, which is very similar to what we were doing. We were in the office environment. And we quickly recognized that DESP was onto something. In this whole hybrid environment, so DESP is an occupancy management platform for the office environment in today's hybrid world. So nobody knows, the big unknown, right? Nobody knows the employees, how many employees are going to be coming into the office on a particular day. So this allows you to start collecting data to understand what your real estate usage is for the employees and how they are going to use the office. How many times will they use the office? What do they want when they come into the office? And you can start managing your office to fit the culture of who you are. So if you've grown over the pandemic, you know you need more space, you just don't know how much more space. Well, now you've got data to tell you how much more space. If you're having to cut back on space, you don't know if you need to cut back 2 floors, 3 floors, 4 floors. Well, now you've got data that says these are the patterns, and you can start adjusting accordingly. So that's how we got into DESP. And we're in a situation right now where, fortunately, we're not raising capital at this point. Our formula is a little bit different. Our formula is bring them to the U.S., we put in our own capital, and then we get traction. Once we get traction, then we go to the market to really scale this thing. Because this thing has had tremendous market fit in Brazil, right? So we have 300 plus clients in Brazil. We've got an MRR of about $100,000 a month, but it's all in Brazil. So now we bring it here. Now we're taking some of the relationships that we have in Brazil with even US multinational companies that are clients, and we're trying to generate that traction here. And so once we do that, then we're going to partner with other folks in the community, and so co-invest with other folks to really make this thing scale. And then use the US as an international platform. So if there's anything that we're looking for today, and the idea is that we could actually have some doors open to prove the model out here in the US. And that's basically what we do.
Thanks, Walter. So I think it would be helpful to give a little insight on, without going too far down the rabbit hole on what each of your platforms do. And I think a good place to start, maybe, Anna, would be to talk about what Mark and I jokingly call 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, excuse me. Because Padverb has a really cool tool, still in beta?
Beta testing, everybody who wants to be a tester, welcome.
So one of the most interesting things about Padverb and 361 is that if you've been at a 361 event, it's very likely that you've been recorded as part of Padverb, and all you can do is go and claim your profile, and you automatically can begin to be a podcaster. So all of you are amateur podcasters, whether you know it or not, if you've ever spoken on 361. But I'd like, Anna, for you and then Walter to pick a feature, and I'm going to ask you to do the social graph. Walter, I don't know your platform as well, so you'll have to pick another feature. And tell us how that feature is really kind of, you think will change the shape of the technology.
Thank you for this question. So what we realized when we started building Padverb is that all of us have a lot of social media connections, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I focus a lot of my efforts on LinkedIn. I have over 8,000 connections. Now, who are the people that I've actually spoken with or met with? Probably about 25%. And we found that that's actually a reasonable number for a lot of us, that most of these connections and people we don't know. So the Padverb social graph feature is actually, exactly that if a person has given an interview and spoken with a host, then these people know each other. So we're building something where people, creators, people with ideas to share are connected through interviews. And you know exactly that Mark is a super connector because Mark has multiple, right now Mark has about 50 interviews, I believe, episodes. A lot of them are actually brought over by you from, the Chicago event, from the Ohio event. So all of these panels that we're participating in, we are digitizing them, we're putting them to Padverb, and you are immediately connected to the social graph of people. Now, how does it work? So essentially, if you want to promote your ideas through the medium of podcast interviews, if you're in the knowledge industry or really any industry, if you're a founder, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, and you have something to say, you want to get to your ideal podcast interview goal. This is a nice segue.
It's not the Academy Awards. You're not going to take off the microphone.
Your time is over.
I'm sorry, what is the name? Is it Padvest?
Padverb. So pad, like you're writing on a pad that you were distributing. And verb is to verbalize ideas.
So I think you might have to go off mic unless unless Mark is really good with AV, which I'm going to bet he's not.
Oh, I see what happened.
Okay.
So they started piping the like smooth jazz for the whole
Live
property
events.
through our.
Live events.
Okay. So if you have podcast interview goals, you want to get, if you're in the, let's say, real estate investing, we've had, the previous panel is a great female founder. If she wants to interview with famous real estate investors, for example, maybe she wants to get to, Sam Zell or whoever, famous guy. So we give this person an opportunity to the path to the ultimate podcast goal, and we can book this person through the path. So essentially, it looks like there's an input. You put in your name, and you have an initial portfolio of interviews, and then there's an output, which is your podcast goal. Could be Joe Rogan, could be Gary Vee, whoever, Sam Zell, maybe Maria Sharapova. She does a lot of podcast interviews. So we show that you, with your initial portfolio, let's say 5 or 10 interviews, you have 20 paths to Maria Sharapova. And we help you book, we help you earn your way through those paths to your ultimate podcast goal. So the business model is, there's a lot of free, a lot of things you can do for free. You can listen, you can, follow. But you can also promote your ideas, promote your businesses, promote your investments through interviews, and we can help you match. We can help you do the match with your ideal host, with your ideal guest in our host-guest matching service. And Mark, essentially everything that we do here.
I got it.
I'm on the base, so I can do anything. So. We can help. We put all of this content that has been recorded here, and we connect. Like for example, this panel, Jim would be the host, and I would be the guest, and Walter would be the guest. So we're already in the graph, and if Walter wants to interview with a real estate, a work,
Sam Zell.
Yes, Sam Zell. Then we can help you get there through on our platform. So that's.
Sold.
Yes. So come, register, upload your portfolio. If you're not already there, if you're already there, you can claim your profile and start booking, start talking. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're going to have to use your golden speaking voice.
My voice.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Simple. So actually, the platform that I just explained is it, and there's only one major feature to it. And that is that it is actually a booking reservations platform for all employees. So your office becomes almost like a WeWork, if you wish, where employees come in and they sit wherever they want. They can decide. If they need to sit at a desk which has a couple of monitors. If they want to sit by the window, all they have to do is book it, and then they go in and select where they want to sit, how long they're going to sit. They can book it for half a day or a couple of hours or whatever it is. But what this does is it creates patterns of who's coming in for how long and what do they want to do in the office. Are they going to come in because they need to get away from home, because of the dog, because of the kids, because of whatever? They need some silence. So they come to some quiet space. But then there's others that come in because they need to collaborate or they just need to be social, right? So you have this, you create an environment of a coffee shop, for example. Or others want or need collaboration. One thing we've discovered on Zoom is that Imagineering, innovation, happens in person. There's a lot of back and forth that goes on, a lot of nonverbal communication that goes on when you're in person that really gets, ideas flowing. That's hard to do on Zoom. So people have to come into the office to do that, whiteboarding, etc. So then you create a space for that. So in some cases, we talk about, you need the social distancing, and so you're going to have more office space necessary. Well, take that and say, and with that social distancing, you need to create collaboration environments. So you're still going to need more office space, okay? But then you create it and you build it and you start understanding the culture of who you are because things have changed. This is all about the unknown. Nobody really knows what the employees are actually going to do, what it takes to either bring them back or really what it takes to make them make them comfortable in the office, make them want to be in the office, right? So you start managing this, and that's the beauty of it.
I'm just going to say one of the features I find very attractive on this, David was telling me about his brother, is that for women that work in the office, we are always freezing because we have less clothing on than just period, right? Way more clothes. And so it actually tells you which, at least in one of your offices, tells you which temperature is in which space,
Yes.
so that you can decide where to go. And I think for me, as a woman, this has always been a problem for me. It's coats and sweaters and bullshit, right? So for me, that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Thank
And it'll tell you the ambient temperature?
It will. I mean, it integrates with building management systems so that you can adjust it.
Very
Right.
cool.
And the other thing is, there's two things that are really important here. One of them is the short term. It allows you to reduce your operating expenses. If you've got 10 floors and you've got on Fridays and Mondays, you've got a 20% occupancy, well, you can shut down 4 or 5 of those floors and just let people occupy the bottom or top 4 or 5 floors, right? And then you save all these operating expenses on those other floors. So that's one thing. That's short term. And then longer term, when your lease expires, you have the data to understand if you need more space, how much more space do you need? If you need less space, how much less space do you need? So it's a pretty cool tool.
The real use case, in other words, the real space that you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about collecting data and knowing how to use it. Yes.
So question on sort of the revenue model. It looks like if I ran a small business of less than 600 people and 300 desks, maybe up to that, I pay $3,600 a year.
Yes, approximately.
$300 a month.
Yep, that's it.
So that sounds not like a lot of revenue. And not only, as a business owner, if I'm really solving that problem, it's pretty cheap, right?
Right.
So how do you find and scale how many users you're going to have?
So you go through channel partners, and you have thousands of clients so you've got a couple of different models. You've got the small model, which is basically this product is extremely simple, very, very simple to use. Okay, that's one of our values. Is it's easy to use.
How long does it take your team to set up my specific office space?
A day, maybe a day, if that much. It depends on how good you give me your layouts. Because we'll take your layout. You can even give it to us on a napkin, as long as it's in certain amount of pixels. If that's the layout that you want to be used, because you upload the layout, right? So you can upload a simple layout, a two-dimensional layout, or you can give it to us and we can do a 3D layout for you. That's when it takes a day. But it's really simple. You just upload your own layout, and all we do is put little dots on the different desks, and then we create QR codes, and that's it, right? So we're looking for thousands of clients, and that's how you get to the revenue model. And so we're working with channel partners to do that. Jones Lang LaSalle, for example.
So our beta, we're doing it with Adverb and others. Just everybody in this room needs something other than capital. If it's capital, I got to go through FINRA. We're regulated, but we can all be like a really a referral system on community steroids for each other. Is the idea. These are just examples. So Padver would love to team up with top tier publishers, right? I know some, but collectively we know others. You're looking for the 1,000 clients, right? Major, small real estate owners. So what we're all trying to do is then create a referral chain that it's honestly hard to do because there's just serendipity is going to happen, and that's just sort of community goodwill we're going to create. But if you want it to be systematic, Jim's going to be sort of soft launching a way for us to be doing it together.
We also need to do a better job of obviating these things and talking about what it is that we're engaging with and who and why. And so, look for more of that to come as well, because, community and the referral system is only as good as the information that you put in. So we're looking for some
Samir is looking for a board role on a public company, and checked in on that one as well. So there's all those asks. We're going to try to enable our community to, obviously we can't share legal fees, right? Big former practicing lawyer. That's the one thing we can't do, capital and legal fees. But otherwise, there's a lot of ways we should and could help each other, including in philanthropy. People are often the solution there as well.
Great. So, any more questions for Desk B or Padver, please?
I just have a question for Desk B. There's lots of our companies have, we're trying to decrease the amount of kind of platforms our employees have to use, or our users have to have. Do you guys plug into the back end? So
Absolutely. Absolutely. APIs.
Yes.
We're what we call a tier 1 platform. So we don't get into your system. We don't have any PII whatsoever. So the only thing we have from your employee is the name and the email. And then we plug right into your system and you tap into our product, into your platform. So yes.
And it's super easy, QR code, the employees just have to boom.
Can they book them in advance?
What's that?
Can they book them in advance?
You know, we were just talking about this yesterday. My brother said, this event should be using our platform. But we haven't. That's not a vertical.
Not
Our
events,
focus.
in advance.
Oh, in advance. I thought you said events. So what was the question in advance?
Can you book it in advance?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you can book it over a period of time if your manager allows you to. So you could actually say, you know what? I want that desk all year. And if your manager allows you to have that, then you book that desk all year. And so for parking reservations, we have one particular client who has 225 parking reservations. And he's given those parking reservations to 225 employees. And he's told those employees, look, you have a space to park. But if you're not coming into the office, unbook it.
Yeah.
And leave it open so that somebody else can book it. But those 225 people have a spot. And they can book it and you know where your spot is because they're all marked, right? So, yes, it's got that kind of flexibility built into it.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left before Stephen Burke starts his 119th State of the Nation address. And so, if there are no other questions, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. If you want to go to the briefing, it's in the wine room. It's going to be about beyond inflation, basically focus on debt and its different manifestations, both federal and personal. Also, if you're going, speaking of Padver, we're going to move the camera over to the water, and I'm going to be doing quick interviews. Questions like what scares and excites you today, and how can we partner with you? So you should be interviewed.
I love that.
Actually, Anna should interview you.
Nice.
Or anybody who wants to meet him, do it before the interview and hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Again, wine room for the briefing.
How many people do you think that will hold?
8.
Plus, our 16 standing.
Yeah, if you want to do SRO.
Oh, so this can be online, basically.
And will there be projection?
No.
Okay, so that's it.
But you can see it on your devices. Go to Zoom anytime. Our Zoom link 361 361 3601. Password 361 firm.
Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.